As you become more experienced in Photoshop, you'll find that you'll use different groups of panels for performing different tasks, and it will be helpful to customize the panel locations and save them for that task. As you can see, Photoshop ships with a number of different workspaces that you can select and then explore when you have time. But I want to take a look at one way that I use to set up panels. And this is a way that I find very useful when I'm working in Photoshop, because it actually consists of putting the panels on the left-hand side. And I'm going to dock them with the tools. And the reason that I put everything here on the left side is because I was just noticing that all day long I was going back and forth between selecting tools and then selecting a layer and then coming up to the options bar, and it was taking me a lot of time. So by rearranging my panels, and I'll start doing that now by just clicking and dragging on the tab or the name of the panel and bringing it over here and looking for that cyan vertical line so that it will dock it with the tools. By doing this, I can save a lot of time. So I use my layers all the time. I also use the paths panel quite often. So I'm going to drag that not to nest with layers, but actually to be in its own panel grouping right above the layers. I don't use channels that often, so I would right click and choose to close or close the tab group. On the Mac, that would be a control click if you don't have a 2-button mouse. And then I can move my libraries panel again by just dragging it up here and docking it with the paths. I'll go ahead and close these other by right-clicking and choosing Close Tab Group. And I'll do the same for the color and the swatches and the patterns and the gradients as well. But I do like to use the history a lot, so I would drag that with my layers because those panels usually both consist of a lot of information, so I usually put them together. As well as the properties panel, I can go ahead and nest those there. Or if you want to, like I had mentioned in our previous video, we can go ahead and dock those so that they're separate, so that they're always showing. And you'll notice when I position my cursor on the edge, I can actually make a lot of my panels larger or smaller. So I might just try to make these as small as they can be. All right, let's say that these are all of the panels that I would be using. In order to save this as a workspace, I would click on the workspace picker and then choose New Workspace. And we'll just call this JK Custom. And you'll notice that I could save custom keyboard shortcuts, menus, and toolbars, but for now, I just am going to save the panel location and click Save. So now throughout the day, if I maybe hide a panel or we maybe close some panels or rearrange panels, if I ever need to return to that workspace, I can simply select the workspace picker and then choose to reset that custom workspace that I created. If I ever want to delete a workspace, I need to make sure that the workspace isn't selected. So I might choose something like Essentials, but you'll notice that it didn't return to where the default Essentials were. And that's because I've moved them around and it remembers that. So if I wanted to reset that, I would choose Reset Essentials. And now that I don't have the JK Custom Workspace selected, I can go ahead and choose to delete workspace and delete that custom workspace that we had just created. I'll click Yes, and as you can see, Photoshop makes it very easy to customize and switch between different workspaces depending on the tools that you're using and the task that you're trying to accomplish. Now, moving forward in other videos, I'm going to customize which of my panels are showing based on the tasks that we're going to perform in those videos.